I'd done really nothing about blew our marriage to smithereens. Barely a year after Keith Urban admitted to almost blowing up his marriage to Nicole Kidman to smithereens, he blew it up one final time, and the whole world is witnessing Nicole crash out badly on Instagram Live. How did they go from loved up to cussing each other out on camera? The fairy tale that wasn't. When Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban's separation was confirmed on September 30th, 2025, the world collectively gasped. Here was a couple that seemed to have defied Hollywood's odds. 19 years of marriage, 2 beautiful daughters, and what appeared to be an unshakable bond forged through adversity and unwavering love. But as the dust settled and details began to emerge, it became painfully clear that the fairy tale we'd all believed in had been slowly crumbling behind closed doors for quite some time. The story of how this marriage unraveled is far more complex and heartbreaking than anyone could have anticipated. It's a tale of 2 incredibly talented individuals whose demanding careers, personal struggles, and the relentless pressures of fame ultimately drove a wedge between them that even their deep love couldn't overcome. But to truly understand how we got here, we need to go back to the beginning, to that magical moment when an Australian actress and a country music star found each other in the chaos of Hollywood. It was January 2006 at the Jedi USA Gala in Los Angeles when Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban first locked eyes. The event celebrating Australian talent in Hollywood brought together 2 souls who would soon become one of entertainment's most beloved couples. So I'm going to speak to a little bit about a particular view I get of Nick for a long time now, but I'll start with the fact that we met in January 2005. We're being honored at this event called Guide Day LA, which sounds a bit like a pickup line from Crocodile Dundee, but here's where the story gets interesting and perhaps where the first seeds of their eventual troubles were planted. We chatted very briefly. I was trying to play it cool, but inside I felt like I'd snuck into the royal ball. Simply because Nick had such a truly otherworldly aura about her, and I felt a bit like I was meeting a real-life princess. Urban's insecurity was palpable from the start, and despite all of that, I did manage to get her phone number on a tiny piece of paper, and I carried that number in my pocket for well over a week. I pull it out and look at it, put it back in my pocket. I was scared. This vulnerability, this sense of unworthiness that Keith felt even at the beginning would become a recurring theme throughout their relationship, one that would resurface in devastating ways 2 decades later. The courtship that followed was the stuff of romantic movies. Kidman, fresh from her painful divorce from Tom Cruise, found herself drawn to this talented musician who seemed to offer everything her previous marriage hadn't. Genuine warmth, Australian roots, and a partner who wasn't threatened by her success. Or so it seemed. It turned out that this mystic creature was really just a wide-eyed, vivacious, giddy girl from the Sydney suburbs. And despite being born in Honolulu, she was utterly Aussie through and through. They married on June 25, 2006, in a fairy tale ceremony in Sydney, attended by 230 guests, including Hugh Jackman and Russell Crowe. Kidman wore a stunning Balenciaga gown, and Urban serenaded her with Making Memories of Us. Everything seemed perfect. But perfection, as we now know, was an illusion that would shatter within months. Just 4 months into their marriage, Urban's long-standing battles with alcohol and cocaine addiction resurfaced, threatening to destroy everything they'd built. And barely 4 months into our marriage, my addictions that I had done really nothing about blew our marriage to smithereens. And I went into the Betty Ford Center for 2 months. 3 months into a marriage. I'm in rehab for 3 months. This moment would define their relationship for years to come. Kidman, demonstrating the kind of strength and commitment that would become her trademark, staged an intervention. Urban would later describe this as a life-saving act of love. I had no idea what was going to happen to us, and if you want to see what love in action really looks like, give that a whirl. Nick pushed through every negative voice, I'm sure even some of her own, and she chose love. Urban has maintained sobriety for nearly 19 years as of 2025, a testament to both his commitment and Kidman's unwavering support. But the question that haunts this story is, did that early crisis create a dynamic where one partner was always the savior and the other always needed saving? Did it establish an imbalance that would eventually become unsustainable? As they moved forward, building their family with the birth of Sunday Rose in 2008 and Faith Margaret in 2010, they presented a united front to the world. They attended countless red carpets together with Urban, supporting Kidman's acting career, and Kidman championing Urban's music. We found each other in this huge world and were crazy about each other, you know. But behind the scenes, cracks were forming. Urban's demanding tour schedule and Kidman's international filming commitments meant they spent increasing amounts of time apart. The very careers that had made them who they were, the talents that had drawn them together in the first place, were now pulling them in opposite directions. I choose projects because I feel compelled to tell the story, or I'm really interested in the person who is the director, or the writer, or the group of actors. Kidman's passion for her craft was undeniable, but it came at a cost. Meanwhile, Urban was experiencing his own professional renaissance, with tours that kept him away from home for months at a time. The couple had always maintained that communication was their secret weapon. It was great to find a naughty girl. Yeah, I love that there's balance in my life. I've truly never had that before. But as the years went on, that balance became increasingly difficult to maintain. Phone calls and FaceTime sessions, no matter how frequent, couldn't replace physical presence and genuine intimacy. Then came 2024 and early 2025, when Kidman's career took what some would call an X-rated pivot. Her roles in films like Baby Girl and A Family Affair featured explicit, steamy scenes that reportedly made Urban uncomfortable. Sources claim Urban struggled to see her as his wife amid these liberating roles. A telling moment came in July 2024 when Urban abruptly hung up during a radio interview when questioned about Kidman's sex scenes. This tension over Kidman's professional choices added another layer of complexity to an already strained relationship. Was Urban being controlling, or was this a legitimate boundary issue? Were Kidman's career ambitions overshadowing the needs of their marriage? These are questions without easy answers, and they highlight the impossible balance that many couples in the entertainment industry struggle to maintain. As early summer 2025 approached, the couple began living separately. Urban was on his High and Alive world tour, performing across the United States, while Kidman was filming Practical Magic 2 in London, residing in a luxurious $65,000 per month mansion. The physical distance between them had never been greater, and the emotional gap was widening just as rapidly. Urban acquired his own residence in Nashville, separate from their family home, a move that insiders describe as the turning point. This wasn't just about convenience or work schedules anymore. This was about a man who had decided he needed space, who had come to a conclusion about his marriage that his wife hadn't yet reached. And that's where our story takes its most heartbreaking turn. Because, according to multiple sources, Kidman was completely blindsided by Urban's decision. The unraveling? The summer of 2025 would prove to be the longest and most painful season of Nicole Kidman's life since her divorce from Tom Cruise nearly a quarter-century earlier. While Keith Urban toured the United States, performing night after night to sold-out crowds who had no idea his personal life was imploding, Kidman found herself alone in London, grappling with a reality she never saw coming. The woman who had stood by Urban through his darkest days, who had saved his life when addiction threatened to destroy him, was now facing the possibility that love, even the deepest, most committed love, might not be enough. According to sources close to the couple, Urban initiated the separation, leaving Kidman devastated and desperate to save their marriage. Keith wasn't happy in the marriage, one insider revealed, and was forced to confront her. This confrontation, which allegedly took place in front of friends, must have been excruciating for both of them. Urban finally voicing frustrations he'd been harboring for who knows how long, and Kidman realizing that the partnership she'd poured her heart and soul into was crumbling before her eyes. The reasons for the split paint her a picture of a marriage slowly suffocated by the very things that should have enriched it. The primary issue, according to multiple sources, was a devastating lack of intimacy. Keith never sees Nicole. Either she's filming or he is on tour, one source explained. But this wasn't just about physical absence. It was about emotional disconnect. They are just going through the motions, another insider shared, painting a picture of two people who had become strangers, living parallel lives rather than partners building a shared existence. What makes this particularly heartbreaking is how hard they both try to make it work. Yeah, and there's times in which you can balance it, and you do less, and then you can do a little more and you do less.